Hello, this is XenoChat, a Xeno-themed podcast that covers everything from Xenogears, Xenosaga, all the way to Xenoblade. My name is Tyler. I am the host, along with my co-host Justin.
Hello, everybody.
And today we are here with a special guest, Pure.
Hello.
And yeah, we're going to be talking with him about some production side of things, along with other things within the series. But let's first start off. What I'd like us to kind of do in these episodes, like start off with recent news within the Xeno series. So first, let's start with Xenogears, because I believe either the end of last month or the beginning of this month, the Fei Fangwang figure came out. Is that right?
Yes, it did.
All right, and Justin, you told me you already got yours, correct?
Yup, it's still in the box. I haven't opened it yet, but it looks absolutely fantastic.
Oh my gosh, I am so jealous of you right now.
Yeah, I cannot wait to open it up and play with it, because it just looks absolutely gorgeous.
All right, and Ellie is supposed to come out, I'm not certain when. It's supposed to be this year, right? Or
Yeah, I believe Ellie is this year, along with Weltall.
I think Ellie is November. I'm not 100% sure, though. Don't quote me on that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have to check again.
Well, it makes sense if they want to get it out this year for the 20th anniversary. But yeah, I ordered from Square Enix, and they still say a September 2018 release date for Fei, and I don't know when I'm going to be getting it this month.
Watch you get it next year.
Oh no!
20th anniversary will be over by that point.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And enjoy your 21st anniversary Faye figure.
Oh no!
You know, it's kind of funny. We're recording this on September 9th. Today's the day the Dreamcast came out. $99.99.
Oh. Interesting.
Yeah, and I think the Sonic movie also came out that day too, or something like that. They had a whole bunch of things planned for the Dreamcast launch.
I sadly was not part of the Dreamcast experience.
You and a lot of people. Don't worry.
Oh. All
It's
right.
because they didn't release it on the Dreamcast. Xenogears should have been on Dreamcast. Someone should do that. Do like a Bleemcast as Xenogears.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah, I try to imagine how sort of dated the cutscenes would have been, because they would have went with the 3D models for that, and it would have been like I don't know, that infamous screenshot of Sonic talking with his mouth open. That'd be like Ellie.
Oh, okay. All right. So moving on, like with let's see, Xenosaga, they announced a figure for Cosmos from Xenoblade Chronicles 2. How do we feel about this?
Hey, the more Cosmos merch, the better.
Yeah, I had made a tweet about it when they first announced it. It was basically like, if you're surprised about this, I don't know where you've been.
That's true. Yeah, they've pimped out Cosmos for so many years now.
Yeah, seriously. When I was in Japan a couple months back, I went to the store in Akihabara, and they had like a whole bunch of like capsule toys, but like open, and you could just buy them. And I remember finding like a section that just had a bunch of Cosmos and like different colors of her too.
When I visit Japan, you're gonna have to tell me where that store is.
Absolutely, you're gonna love it. You're gonna blow all your money there.
Probably.
My friend went to I don't know what kind of store it was, but I think they sell a lot of video games and stuff. But I think that's what kind of store it was. But I believe he said it was in like, it wasn't in like, no, it's not a Japanese friend. He lives in New Jersey. And
wait, where in Jersey?
I don't know exactly. Oh, really? Wow. I'll ask him. Yeah. He said he saw a Cosmos figure in that store, and I remember like I thought that was so odd. Like I probably should have asked him where it was too, because
because I probably know the store.
Yeah, like he The thing is, people probably assume I have like every Xeno figure ever, and the actual reality is that I don't have a single Xenosaga figure. So there you
go. Really?
Yeah, I don't have any. Actually, you might be surprised. The only Xeno figure I have is a Shulk amiibo. That's it. I only have. If you want to get technical, I have 2 of them, but that's it. I don't have any other kind of like fancy merchandise from them. That probably sounds a little strange, but some people.
No, not at all.
Well, some people that know me will probably be surprised, I guess, to hear about that. But yeah, nothing. No figures. No mechs. Nothing. Just a Shulk amiibo, and that's it.
That's fine. It's an expensive hobby. I can attest to that. So, yeah. Well, let's see. Last but not least, we have some Xenoblade 2 news. The last big update added Elma. That was pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it's great, but I don't have the expansion pass yet because I'm waiting for the Torna DLC to come out.
Oh, right.
And I believe you've already gotten her, right, Tyler?
Yes, I have. Which I kind of cheat because they added the custom difficulty to the game where you can kind of adjust it to however you want. So I like put everything to its lowest, and yeah, I was pretty terrible. I mean, it still took like a surprisingly long time to fight her, even with the difficulty adjusted all the way down. But it was worth it.
Tyler, you're such a scrub. Come on, man.
I know. I'm just terrible at video games. So
jeez, you gotta use cheats. Oh my goodness.
Hey, Monolith Soft provided it, so I think it's fine.
Well, I don't have her, but that's I suppose that's to be expected when I haven't played the game since January. So.
Oh wow.
Damn.
Oh, but yeah, speaking of Torna, that comes out for the expansion pass on Friday, doesn't it? And then the physical release is like the week after, or?
Yeah, it's like the 20-something. I gotta like check my order because I'm getting the physical version of it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm also getting the physical version.
I guess see what day that comes out.
I believe it's the 24th. The physical version.
Yeah, you are probably right, because that sounds correct. Yeah, it looks like, according to Amazon, it says the 21st.
Oh, okay.
Oh, maybe I am just a fool, and I'm wrong.
Nah.
You're in the right ballpark, so that's all good.
Yeah.
I guess while we're still on the subject of Xenoblade 2 and the what they did with Elma, I'm not sure if I'll be able to get to the story while we're talking, so maybe I'll just tell it now.
Well, that's fine. Go ahead.
Do it.
If you followed me for a while, you probably know that I'm able to speak to a few people that work at the company, and there's one person in particular that I'm fairly good friends with at this point, and at least he's the only one that I speak to somewhat regularly.
Mm-hmm.
And when Xenoblade 2 was, you know how they were doing the, it was like a daily Blade reveal or whatever on their Twitter?
Yeah, I remember that.
Well, there was one time he sent me a message where he said, "I think you'll like what we revealed tonight." And I didn't think too much of it. I just sent a response like, "Oh, really? I'm looking forward to it." And that Blade would turn out to be Azami. Probably not the reveal that you were expecting me to say. I think he was just familiar with my tastes and just thought, well, if it's weird and creepy, he'll probably like it. And I said, "Oh yeah, that's pretty cool. I liked it. I thought the reveal was cool." But
so he basically saw that you like goth girls and was just like, "Yo, I got Azami. You got to check this out."
I think just like anything that's like a vaguely horror aesthetic. I think.
No, Azami's a cool Blade though.
Yeah,
I like her a lot.
I saw the Blade and I was like, yeah, that's cool. I liked it, but I wasn't like super hype or anything. I didn't think much of it. So a little while later, this is the day before Xenoblade 2 came out. see a message he leaves me. It's very unusual, and it was a little suspicious because he sent me something that said, "I think you'll." No, the message was, "Look forward to tonight," smiley face, and it was in English, which he never types to me in English. So
okay, that doesn't sound as bad because before where it's just like, "I think you'll like this." It sounds a little shady. I think you'll like this Godsibb we got coming.
No, but this is the day before Xenoblade 2 came out, and he said, "Look forward to tonight." Smiley face, very weird in English. That never happens.
Right.
And and the thing is, when he sent me that, because of the Azami thing, again, I liked it, but I wasn't like super ecstatic. So when he sent me that message, I thought he was just I just kind of blew him off. I didn't send a response or anything. Like like in my head, I was like, "Oh yeah, whatever." Like I did not care. And and of course later that night, I'm looking at my feed on Twitter, and I'm not paying attention to the text that's in the tweet. I just see, the vector like little case, and I just see Cosmos coming out of it in the video, and it didn't even register at first. I thought they were just playing. At first, I thought they were playing a scene from the game, from the first game, and I thought, why are they playing this? What are they doing? Like, this has nothing to do with Xenoblade. And no, it's just Cosmos in the game, and I'm gonna be straightforward about this. Monolith Soft almost never does twists that actually surprise me.
Yeah.
But I could say that in the past, like, 7 years or whatever, this is the only twist that surprised me. Because I did not see that coming. And anyway, he left me a message, and I still didn't see it coming. I completely ignored it. Now I feel like a moron for not even heeding his warning.
Well, hey, there was no way you could have guessed that would have happened.
I don't think anybody guessed that. That just came out of like complete left field.
Yeah, I remember remember Takahashi in an interview. They brought up Cosmos being in Xenoblade 2, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, it was all for fun and all that." But then he sounded like a little kid when he says, "Yeah, and I got 10,000 retweets. It was so cool." It was like he sounded like an old man that never used social media. That he got like his first viral tweet, and he was like so happy. It was so weird.
Yeah, that was nice. Yeah, I had no idea that was coming either, and I was so excited when I heard it. All right. So, with that being said, how about we move on? And Pure, how about you kind of tell us? It sounds like you might have started a little bit, but kind of tell us about your history with the Xeno series overall.
All right. Well, I do remember when you guys told your stories in the last episode.
How kind of you to listen to that.
Yeah, and I'm only bringing that up because I felt kind of bad because I realized just how uninteresting my story was in comparison.
Oh.
It was it's a pretty pedestrian way to get into the series. So people seem to think that, well, not too many people. I've had a few people. They seem to not necessarily outright think this, but they seem to act like I was following the production of Xenogears back in like 1997. I must have been in the office. I must have been breathing down Takahashi's neck as he was giving direction orders to all these people. And no, nothing like that happened. I knew nothing about the game when I played it. I did not follow it whatsoever. There was no immediate interest other than this is a Square game on the PlayStation, and Square's made some games I really like, so I'm gonna give this a try. And that's the story of how I played Xenogears. That's how I got into it. There's nothing special about the way I got into it. It was just a thing that happened.
You should have just lied to us, because I have this amazing image in my head right now of you like at Square Enix just going behind Takahashi like, "Takahashi-sama, what is this game you're playing?"
Yeah, like I think some people, I guess because of some of the tweets I've made, like I guess they just think I've just been following this thing since like its inception. I must be related to Takahashi in some way. I must be like his.
Yeah, you are.
Like his.
You are Takahashi.
His nephew, that picture is like a picture of some of the main heads of that were behind Chrono Trigger, and they're like in front of the game on like a TV. I think like Toriyama's in it. There's like all these guys are there, and that's what I picture people like probably seem to think of me. That I'm sitting there, and there's Xenogears is on the TV. It's like me and Takahashi and like all these guys. It's just.
You're about to go have a drink with Takahashi when we're done with this. Don't lie to us. We know this. We know your plans. I've been on to you. I've been like spying you for the last like 5 years.
He came to visit. He's in New York right now. He's
Yeah.
he's at the airport. We only have like 2 hours, and then I gotta get out of here because I don't want to leave him behind. Yeah, there's people who actually like think that I guess I've been around forever. Like I was the first person in the fandom, and that you couldn't be more wrong about that. But I played the game, and this is the bland story continues because when I finished the game, I really liked the game.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not. I guess when some people had finished it, I guess some people say I got really into the fandom and I couldn't stop thinking about the game for years. At least maybe until like Xenosaga came out or something. I'm sorry if I'm using Xeno. It's going to be inconsistent because
it's okay. It's alright.
The thing is that I haven't had an extended conversation about this. I guess this meta series in English with my voice in years. So,
it's okay. I haven't had like an extended conversation like real life in any language, so it's fair.
Yeah, it's a little strange. So if I say Xeno, it's because that's how I would normally say it in Japanese. So it's because if you say Xeno, if you say Xenogears to someone in Japanese, they're gonna, this guy talks really funny. What's wrong with him? That's the impression you're gonna give them.
So do you know Japanese?
Yeah.
Oh, have you ever played the games in Japanese or any of them? Just curious.
Yeah, actually, I'll get that when I get there, because there's something a little funny about that. But yeah, I played Xenogears. I liked the game, but I kind of moved on from it a little quickly. It wasn't like I wasn't obsessed with the game. I read Perfect Works and all that, but even then, it's not like I was like I have to, see what the fandom looks like or. It was just probably a blessing in disguise. I mean, I saw some of it. I was just more of the rare lurker, and didn't really, I didn't really get involved. Again, blessing in disguise, because, I tend to get, I can only, like if I look at things, like especially today, and if I go on like the Xenoblade subreddit or something, and I go there for 10 minutes. I think that's like my limit. I can't take it anymore. I have to cleanse the Xeno out of me for like a week after that.
Fandom is a scary thing these days.
But that's not to say it's like a bad place. I think a lot of the problem is me, but that's just the way I am. But yeah, so I finished the game, and it's not like I forgot about it. But again, it wasn't like one of those things. I guess I had experienced so many things that were. I mean, not similar. I don't think there's anything quite like Xenogears, aside from other things that Takahashi's worked on. But I guess for me, it was just something I really liked. I think another part of it, not to get into like story details for now, but I think another thing about it was obviously everyone knows the second disc is it could be a little underwhelming compared to the first one.
Yeah,
I think it was partly that kind of slowed down the momentum for me. And I think I was never super happy with the ending, but I'm probably in a minority on that one. But yeah, I think that was probably a factor for me, like not sticking with it in the same way people seem to think I did, and that I went and had I was in there's like a story where a lot of the people that worked on that game got together a little after it released, and they had a discussion about what they're going to do. I think it was more people seem to think it's about like concepts for the next game or whatever, but it was. What people don't know is that a lot of it was actually more business related. When you make a game like that, I guess the production talk came early. When you make a game like that, it's not seen in the company as it wasn't Final Fantasy or anything like that. The game was seen as somewhat of a risk. and it was more like more of a thing where they wanted to stick together, which is why a lot of those guys that worked on that game left to join Monolith. And of course, there's an even more infamous story of Masato Kato not being there despite being a relatively important part of that game. And instead he went swimming somewhere where everyone else was in an office at Square. He was swimming somewhere, and I feel like he might have joined Monolith Soft if he didn't decide to just go, scuba. I know he went scuba diving. That's what he did. He was scuba diving.
That's so badass.
Yeah, it's totally him too. Because I don't think people realize how much of like a free spirit he is. He really he doesn't like to be tied down. That's why he's a freelancer these days. He's not. He left Square not that long after that game, but I think like maybe 4 or 5 years or something he left, and he was scuba diving. And I think during that time he was off, and again still away from all these people. I don't think he even knew about the meeting or anything. He got like a call. It was from someone at Square, and I think that they asked him, they immediately asked him, all right, so what are you going to do next? And I guess he decided on, I think that was Chrono Cross. That was like the next project that he would work on right away. Okay. So that's kind of why he never was involved with, any of that other stuff ever again. He just does his own thing. You can't control him. There's horror stories about this guy when he was working on the game, because I think when he's not in control, like the primary control of a scenario or something like that, he doesn't know what to do. He's very all over the place. So it's very he's definitely a character.
Wow.
But yeah, so man, I remember where I was before I said all that stuff. Believe fandom, was just not really was not like super into it at the time. Mm-hmm. And then at some point in the future I did play Xenosaga.
Did you just kind of stumble into it as well, or?
Yeah, you could sort of sum it up as something I stumbled into. Yeah, I think that's the best way you could describe that. It just kind of happened. And the thing is, I knew it was by Takahashi. It wasn't like I wasn't familiar with the man working on it, the sort of the mind behind it. But right. I guess I try not to give it too much attention. Like, it was just... Again, like, the story for that isn't super special. It's just I played through the game. And I suppose my story for the second game might be a little more interesting, just because I thought the game was so bizarre. It was.
Yeah.
I think everyone, especially if you played it in like 2005, 2004, it was more jarring for you. How I guess shocking some of the changes were in terms of directing.
Yeah, it's kind of funny you mentioned the quip about like fandoms. I would have loved to have seen the fan reactions to, say, Xenosaga Episode II. And all the changes, like when that announcement came out that they were recasting everybody. I'm kind of curious to know, like, did people freak out about that? I think they did, but I can only imagine, like, how disappointed fans must have been at the time.
When you say recasting, do you mean, like, development staff or actors?
Actually,
English version?
The actors, but yeah, I did remember hearing, like, there were some, like, development troubles, too, with the second game as well.
Yeah, again, we'll get into that, but I remember. So here's the thing about Episode 2 that's really strange. I guess if you play the English version first, the music placement is actually better in that game than in the Japanese version.
Wait, what? Really?
Oh,
yeah, the Japanese version does not have the exact same music placement.
Huh?
What?
So you get to choose between two things. The English version has some interesting voice choices and changes.
Oh yeah, you could say that.
So you get to deal with. I think the Japanese cast is great for that game, but so you can have the Japanese cast. They still do a great job in that game, but you get to have some really bizarre music placement, or you could have the spotty English voice track, but with better music placement. So,
wow, yeah, you can't have one without sacrificing the other.
Pick your poison.
I'm trying to remember an example. I'm pretty sure I might be remembering it wrong. That scene, I think it's after. I think it plays after Cecily and Kath die.
Okay.
And there's like that scene where she's like sitting at like a table. She's like really upset, and Jin's like behind her trying to like kind of console her.
Okay.
And I think it's that scene that the music placement is so bad in the Japanese version. And think of the English version. I don't remember if they even play music. I think they played like some music by Yuki Kajiura, because she did a lot of the scene music. But in the Japanese version, they play one of the other songs, like that poppy-sounding music.
Oh no, by the other composer?
Yeah, as Shion is grieving and is angry and upset. And it's so bad. Like, if that was your first time being exposed to that scene, then I think your impression of it is a little different from the English version, where that one's fine. Like, the voice work for that scene is fine, and the music placement is much better. But in the Japanese version, and I might be wrong in that particular scene, but I'm pretty sure I'm remembering it right. The music is not. It's not good. It's got some bad music placement, and it's that's a directing problem. That's
yeah.
And again, we'll get into that a little later. But
well, the thing is that, because I can't remember the composer's name, but I remember he's actually a pretty good composer. He worked on the 999 Zero Escape games, right?
Right, and Shinji Hozo, and
yeah, oh yeah,
he recently did EX Fighting Layer, and his music is fantastic there. He's a great composer, but he's not a good choice for that kind of game. Like, if you listen to Episode 1 soundtrack and then listen to his music in Episode 2, and it's like, there's no way this is like the same game. Like, this is if you told them that this was they're both Xenosaga, both of them, this game literally comes after the other one, and they didn't know anything about the games, they wouldn't believe you. They think this has to be music for like the music that plays in that scene I was talking about. It's got to be for like some kind of a mini game like that. It's got to be something you hear in like Hackcocks or something in the third game. There's no way that plays in a dramatic scene. It's impossible.
Exactly. Oh, jeez. Yeah, that was just bad directing at that point.
Yeah. So, yeah, Episode 2 was just so strange. It was like, and the battle system, I guess it's a love it or hate it thing.
Yeah, because didn't they, for at least the American version, didn't they like up the difficulty or like increase the HP for like encounters or something like that to make it more challenging than the Japanese version?
One of them was harder than the other. I don't remember anymore. It's been a while since I played the English version, but
why did they do that so much back then? I don't know why they always would mess with difficulties when they localized it.
Yeah, actually, I had a pretty recent example of that. That X-Men arcade game by Konami.
Right.
Yeah. I have the USA version. Like, I own the cabinet and everything. And it's, at least to me, it's much harder than the Japanese version, because the Japanese version gives you like health restoration, and like you get like a mutant power up to restore your stuff. In English version, you don't get any of that. Like, you're screwed. It's a coin eater. Like, you're totally screwed.
Yeah.
You're on your own, pal.
And that's a Konami board. I don't think you can like flash the region BIOS like you can on like a Neo Geo board.
No, I don't think so. Konami boards are weird.
They're insanely ridiculous. I collect PCBs too, and it's
yeah, they're not like a CPS3 board where you can get like a cart, a disc, and just be like, all right, I'm just gonna put this in here. It doesn't work that way. They have like every game has like a different board, and it makes no sense, and it's very confusing. But anyway, that's a different subject. That's like, and now we're getting to like our arcade nerdy stuff.
But that's fun stuff.
Oh no, it's great. I'm probably more obsessed with that than I am with Xeno, but that's totally different.
Something else I'm terrible at.
But
well, how about this? Do you know what arcade machines they had at Square Enix when they were developing Xenogears? Well, not Square Enix, Squaresoft rather.
Ah, man, I don't remember. I do remember that. I believe Takahashi used to beat all of his staff at fighting games. But,
really?
Oh wow!
I'm pretty sure that was a thing. I think he said that before. I think he said he was like the king of fighting games in his office or something.
They were definitely playing like Darkstalkers or something.
But yeah, with the second game, the battle system was a little strange because they wanted to speed up the battle system from the first game.
Mm-hmm.
And on the surface, if you're just looking at characters attacking and stuff, oh, I guess it's a little faster. And you realize, at least early on in the game, obviously the game, you can change so many things as you level up. You know, once you get to a certain level, there's so many interchangeable like upgrades you can have. But you know, earlier on, you're kind of stocking. You know, like literally that's what it's called, and you're kind of doing that over and over, and it ended up making it feeling even slower. So a little strange there that it ended up working out that way.
Yeah, I remember taking several turns just to stock up in order to actually attack with the moves I wanted to, and that was just made it repetitive as heck.
Yeah, it got worse later on in the game because some of the enemies had really complicated break sequences. I forget the exact terminology for it.
Yeah.
So you could stock a bunch of turns, and then you have to do like you have to target like say A zone, then B zone, and C zone, and then A zone. But if you did like A zone, B zone, and then A zone, you completely ruin your whole setup. And I remember that pissed me off so much. Because I had to always look at a guide when fighting an enemy, and then I had to always remember, oh, that's a ABBA. Oh, wait, no, that's a BDAA. Like, come on.
Actually, but before I even played, you know, Xenosaga 2 as it was, my first exposure to that game was actually the demo in Xenosaga Freaks. I forgot to mention that.
Oh, yeah.
I just got that recently, actually.
Oh, congratulations. I don't know how rare that is.
It's not that rare, but I don't see it that often. I was at Otakon and there was a vendor who had it. It was like I think it was $13. And I was like, all right, I'll take this. Cool.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, Xenosaga Freaks is really weird just because some of the minigames have some not so talked about, really strange things. Like, obviously there's the, the Xenokami thing, which is already pretty weird in and of itself. It's like a...
Oh, yeah.
It's like a... It's just a strange visual novel, but
and it's canon. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's kind of canon. It's weird.
It's weird. It's so weird that it's canon.
But there's like other things like a crossword puzzle, and I remember playing the crossword puzzle. One of the strangest memories I've ever had. But at least as far as these games go, but you're just kind of just playing with the crossword puzzle, and as I was kind of stumped at some point, and I decided to try to form the word sadist because I couldn't come up with anything, and it worked. The word sadist works if you put it. I believe another word that would work is bra. So I don't know why some of these words work, but they do, and I mean 3 points for me, but it was again, everything about that, I feel like that game was like like when you have something like that in there, it's like a potential creepypasta in the minigames because it's just so there's like if you keep playing it for a little while, like Albedo's head will like pop out on the side, and it's like, oh god, it's like who's responsible for this?
That would be unsettling.
But yeah, and I don't even remember that much of the visual novel stuff. I remember, I only recently found out that you were doing a translation of it, or something like that, right?
Yeah. Well, my Japanese is terrible, so I've been working with Kare Reiko. Well, I used to. She's been really busy lately, but yeah, we were doing a Zenokami project, but we have like 2 chapters left, and it's been kind of on hold for a while.
See, if I had known, I would have contacted you because I was also doing a translation of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I do a translation of a lot of things, but that was one of the things I was working on, like very on and off.
Yeah, because you were also working on the Xenosaga 1 and 2, weren't you? Or are you?
Yes, I do need to clarify for everyone listening that I'm not the guy that started working on it 10 years ago and then disappeared off the face of the earth. I only started working on it earlier in the year, so...
Okay, phew. I had my fist raised. I was about to yell at you, but thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah, so please, probably save myself a lot of notifications on my Twitter. A lot of angry notifications about how I haven't updated anything in like 4 years, and how the whole game was apparently done except for the database, but I won't release it. Not that I'm hating on the guy who worked on it. It's his project. It's just
Yeah, I mean, either way, it was a serious undertaking.
But I was doing some of some of the visual novel of that game, but it was so long ago, and I actually couldn't remember where I put the file, and I only discovered it recently, and I remembered like the last time I updated it was like I think June 2014 or something.
Oh wow.
But I mean, it's not like I'm not like super deep into it. I think all the stuff that I did you had already done one way or another.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really strange. Actually, speaking of translation projects, I actually just finished one, but I'm not the head of the project, so I don't know if I can talk about it yet. But I'll just say I finished one recently.
Oh, nice.
So I did a translation check on it. It took a little while, but I could have done it in like 2 days, but I have like no motivation, so.
No, I understand that completely.
See, I normally would, but I think it's specifically with Xeno. I just, the second I start working on anything, immediately it just dawns upon me I actually kind of hate Xeno, so I just stop working on it and then I go do something else. That's how it happens every time. I'll do it for like 10 minutes and I'll just stop. I'm like, oh, you know what? What am I doing with my life? It's like an epiphany every time. I've been better about it lately because I finished that and like I kind of sort of restarted from scratch because I couldn't remember what I was doing with the translation check. I ended up doing it in like a single weekend. So, I mean, I'm trying to get some of my mojo back. But it's something that, I won't say what it is, but it's something that I think a lot of fans have been waiting for a while. Because it's kind of an old thing, and it never had a proper translation ever. Definitely not in full, not even close. So, I think...
Okay.
But it's something that's been around for a long time at this point. So, I remember when this person offered the project, kind of came out of nowhere, and... I was kind of surprised. I was like, this thing doesn't have a translation? I was like, really? I was like, I scoured the internet for a while, and I was like, he's right. There's no translation of this thing, and it's really weird.
Yeah, you'd be surprised at how many of those older RPGs, and not even just RPGs, just games in general, like the Super Famicom has so much unlocalized crap, it's not even funny. And like the Saturn as well is another console that's basically just like a free-for-all. Like there's so many games that haven't been translated.
Now you have me curious, because I'm trying to rack my brain on what hasn't been translated in the Xeno, and it's I can't wait to hear what this project is.
So back to Xenosaga 2. Man, we went way off topic again.
That's fine.
We're gonna be forever. We're gonna be for like 3 hours before I can get through the whole series and just talking about it. We're gonna be here forever. Yeah, and somehow Xenosaga 2 has been the hottest talking point. Isn't that bizarre?
That is very bizarre.
It doesn't happen often, so let's enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, the battle system was... I didn't hate it. People might think I had this super negative impression. I didn't hate it or anything. I just thought it was really weird. Like, I thought they had... I guess I thought they had something on with the first one, so I was like, man, they changed it so much. And they kept some of the stuff the same, but... Do you guys like the battle system, or...
Nope.
Well...
Wow.
Oh, that was pretty instantaneous.
Like, seriously, man, you gotta have the patience of a saint for that battle system. And just, like, being able to remember all those zone combinations and just being able to put up with the load times. Like, the battle starts and each asset has to load one at a time, and it takes for
I think if they, like, reduced the load times and lowered enemies' health, I think it would have been a lot better.
Yeah.
But it was alright. I often forget that game had, like, double team attacks, though, because that's just, I don't know, they were really weird.
What was the one where it was, like, the dance?
Oh, Chaos and Cosmos.
Oh.
Yeah. And then you, like, and it was even weirder when you had your swimsuits on, and then you did it.
Man, I never tried that. No, I don't think I will now. I didn't hate it. I thought it was like the battle system was I guess it was okay, but I think at first I didn't like it. At first I was like, oh god, am I, you know, this might be my last day on this earth by the time I'm done playing this game. But it was. But then as you go on, you kind of get through some certain upgrades. It's very easy to kind of break and make a character overpowered. So kind of found my way through the ropes. Also, my advice if to anyone who hasn't played the game and you want to be really good at it early on, for some bizarre reason, Momo is really overpowered early in the game. Like it's like shocking. Yeah. It's weird. It's incredibly unbalanced. She is stronger than everyone else for quite a while, and it's by a lot.
Yeah, I remember using her a lot when I played it, because you're right. She had like those elemental attacks did a bunch of damage, and I think like she could just break enemies very quickly. Yeah, she was just really OP.
Yeah, she upgrading from that wand to bow and arrow was pretty successful.
Yeah, I mean, my impression of the game when I was done with it, again, I didn't dislike it or anything. I know a lot of people. I think about the fandoms that if something, it's very easy to get incredibly passionate and positive,
right?
But they're also very quick to be very kind of turn their backs and be very negative, like very fast. And
Absolutely.
I feel like there's no in between, and I think that's probably a big reason why I can't even get into it, because it's like I'm not the kind of person that gets. I guess I don't get super enthusiastic all the time. Like not usually, and I don't like to get super negative either.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's like jarring. It's gotta be one or the other, and I'm like, you're tearing me apart, Lisa. You just no more of this. But I didn't like hate it or anything. It was, it was.
Yeah, I mean there are some good parts of Xenosaga 2. I mainly just like the battle system, and I think Tyler and I, we discussed this last episode that there's some genuinely great things in Xenosaga 2. Like the story wasn't bad for what it was. There's some great moments. Albedo's a fantastic villain. So there's definitely like praise to be given to Xenosaga 2. It's just unfortunately that battle system wasn't as great as it probably could have been. But otherwise, the music wasn't too bad. The graphics were pretty good. Yeah, and the story was fun. The cutscenes were really well animated. I think there was some censorship too. Like I think there were some scenes where they toned down the blood.
Yeah, sort of. They had that one scene.
Albedo's,
yeah,
Albedo
exactly.
Scene.
Yeah, where he in the Japanese version he blows his head off with a gun.
Yes, that one.
And then the other one he has an energy blast and he blows his head off. And the funny thing is that the censored version makes more sense, because how does your entire head come off from a pistol? It doesn't make any sense. How does that? It should just be like a hole in his head, and he should just fall to the floor. It'd be dark, but I mean, it would make sense.
And where did he get that gun from?
I don't know. I mean,
internet.
you think all the RTVs just have like guns, like it's just like in like their back pockets? They just walk around with, like just constant.
They just have a whole armory of just like weapons in their room.
Just walking around the Yuriev Institute with guns. That sounds safe and fine. Yeah.
We've got all these superhumans walking around. What do we give them? Let's give them some guns. It's not enough. You have to. You could blow your head off with an energy blast, but we're gonna give you this gun. We're gonna make you waste some ammo. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your energy.
What could possibly go wrong?
It's fine, guys. Yeah, I mean that was the second game. Again, I didn't hate it or anything. It didn't like kill the momentum for me.
Yeah.
And then I played. Well, actually, before we get to anything else, I guess we're gonna talk about more things that some people don't like. But I feel like just very briefly, I guess we should talk about the anime.
Oh gosh.
So I take it both of you have seen it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I recently rewatched it, a few months ago.
I haven't seen it in quite a long time. I don't remember that much of it anymore, at least in terms of like the changes. And this is the part where I guess I'll need or at least I just kind of want your impressions. I've never seen a single episode in English, so.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I don't think I've seen it in English either.
Oh, then I guess I'm the only one that has. Well, I mean, the dub is surprisingly decent. Like, I'm kind of upset that, they didn't get anybody from the original game, but it was dubbed in by ADV, which is located in Texas, so that was understandable. But surprisingly, like, a lot of the lines, especially in, like, the first episode, like, seemed like they were, like, directly ripped from, like, I mean, not directly ripped, but, like, script-wise, sounded exactly like had the exact same script as, like, episode 1. So it's interesting that I feel like they did, like, their research a little bit, unless it just happened to translate it almost exactly the same. But, it was decent. I didn't like Cosmos' voice, but I'm, like, really used to Bridget Hoffman as Cosmos, so I guess anybody else I hear in English as Cosmos I have mixed feelings about. But overall, it was pretty decent.
Okay. I said I haven't watched a single episode in English. I have seen a few clips. Like I heard. I don't even remember what Cosmos sounds like, but I heard like Xion. I thought that one sounded fine.
Yeah.
And I heard
hers was really good.
I don't remember being a big fan of Albedo's when I heard it.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of Albedo's voice either.
But the one that stuck out, not really in a good or bad way, just something that's just sticks out. I guess because I'm familiar with the cast, I just haven't heard them in the show. And it was Ziggy's voice, who's voiced by Jason Douglas. And as soon as he started talking, I was like, is that Jason Douglas? Or am I losing my mind? Because he sounds like Beerus. It just sounds like Beerus is talking. And it's very distracting.
Oh no, I didn't get that connection, and now I hear it.
Yeah, it just sounds. I heard that, and I'm like, because that's how. Yeah, it took me a while. I don't think I ever heard it until like 2015. That was like the first time I heard anything in English. So I'm like, is that Beerus? Like that just sounds. It just sounds like Beerus is talking. Like,
oh my gosh,
it was so weird. And on top of that, like, yeah, he just has a certain sound to his voice that I just tend to recognize. I'm like, also he plays a character in The Walking Dead. So that's another thing I have to associate that voice with, and it's just...
Oh my god. Oh, really? He plays someone in The Walking Dead?
Yeah. So he actually had quite a bit of screen time in one season. I haven't caught up with the show, so I don't know. For all I know, his character might be dead. I don't know. He probably is. I don't know. I just assume. If I haven't watched it in a while, everyone I know is probably dead. So
probably. But, I've kind of lost on that show too.
Yeah, I'm like, like Jason Douglas. I'm like, I like him as an actor, so it's not a bad choice. It's just,
yeah,
it's like when you have like Steve Bloom play somebody. It's like, oh, that's definitely Steve Bloom. Like,
wow. Now the next time I watch Xenosaga the anime, I'll just think of Beerus.
Obviously, when you talk about the anime, one of the first things that'll come up is the production not being very good and being really rough looking.
Oh yeah.
Now there's a good reason for that. A lot of people, Toei's, it was on my Toei, so Toei's one of those companies that gets a lot of flack for some of its production and some of its shows.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will sort of unfairly criticize the animators and say that they're being lazy or not very talented, and that's always kind of run me off in a really bad way, because that's in the case of like Xenosaga, the animation, that's not really the case. It's more of a schedule problem. What happens a lot is a show will be ending on TV and they want to replace it. And it's like, well, it's we need to replace it in 4-5 months, so you guys have like that amount of time to start, and that's actually not as much time as you think. I think their production schedule is probably worse. But that's kind of what happens, and that's sort of what happened with Xenosaga the animation. I think there was probably some other problems that I don't know about, but because even like the Japanese voice cast didn't start voicing some of those episodes until like their first session was in I think it was a month or less than a month before the first episode aired, which is kind of late for a premiere episode. So wow. you get the idea that they were kind of crunching it. and even then, like the staff, the animation staff, like the key animators aren't. It's not like a horrible staff. Like the first episode has I can never remember his name sometimes. Like I always, because I've only seen so many things where he's done animation in it. Kenji Kuryanagi, I believe. Yeah, that's his name. He did animation in the first episode and the last episode. I think you saw that clip, Tyler, where with all the choreography, he did that clip.
Oh yeah, it's like that. That seemed like the most attention they put in the entire series was in that.
Yeah, like
that scene.
Well, obviously, the last episode had more time put into it than the other one. But
right.
Yeah, like he did that. He's a great animator. That's not even close to like his best work, but that's a nice looking scene. It's really well done. But yeah, you get the impression like if they had more time, you'd have more scenes like that. Remember, he only did the first and the last episode, which is normal, like a 11 episode jump for one animator to work on. It takes a while for them to really get the work done. And in the first episode, there's something really early on. I think it's in the when she's in like the UMN mode or whatever, and there's like that scene where the mechs are fighting.
Okay.
I would say that scene might look even better, but I guess I feel like less people would care about it because it's just mechs doing mech stuff and not characters. So, but Kuryanagi did that scene, and that also looks very good. But there's one other animator that I didn't know worked on the show until, like well after I had seen it, and it was I don't know if any of the listeners will recognize the name, but that person is Naotoshi Shida, who's like a legend in the animation industry. He's like Toei's like favorite guy to go to when they want to do like a big climax. He's usually if you ever watch a show by them and the climax is like, it's almost like liquidy smooth animation, and it's like it has like a certain timing to it. That's him, because they always get him to do it. Like it doesn't look like a TV show anymore. He does like movie quality animation.
I just Googled him, and then one of the first things that come up is a thread that says, "Is Naotoshi Shida Toei's best animator?"
he is and isn't, depending on your definition. He's because he's not actually under contract as like a Toei. Like he's not in-house Toei. He's actually a freelancer, but he's always working with Toei, so everyone just associates him with Toei. Like he doesn't do anything else. So yeah, he also did the first and last episode. That's like a dream team, like him and Kuryanagi. Like putting them together. That's if the show had a better production and had better time, those first and last episodes would have some crazy stuff, but it just didn't work out that way. I believe I'm not 100% sure, but I would say I'm 95% sure that the scene that Shida did was the one where Cosmos comes out of the her, I don't know, what do you call that thing that she like sleeps in, like her container,
like capsule.
I was gonna say capsule.
Well, the scene where she like comes out of that, it's so different from the game. She's like bursting out of it, and it's like getting destroyed, and then that one part.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he animates that scene, and sort of the giveaway as to why it might be him is when that last shot of her eye opening, it moves exactly like how he would do it. So I'm just like that. I feel like that has to be him. I have no idea what he did in the last episode. I'm pretty sure, like, my first guess would be the part where the Elsa's crashing and like Cosmos is in front of it.
I
think he did that, but I'm not sure. I mean, it would make sense. He again, they usually save him for like the big climax, so that's my assumption, but not sure.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wish they had put more effort into that show.
Yeah, I mean, again, it wasn't even effort. It's just I think they tried their best, but it was if a guy in a suit tells you like you got to get this out on this date and have fun, like there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
I don't think it's like the worst looking thing in the world, like, but I think another part of it is they had to reinterpret the character designs for TV animation.
Yeah. And
the guy who did them isn't bad. He's done some notable stuff. I don't know if I've never seen the show, but it's a popular show, The Vision of Escaflowne.
Yeah,
that's a really popular one.
Like I've seen like an episode or so of that. So is that same character designer of that show?
Yeah, and
oh wow.
But yeah, I think he had some problems reinterpreting it for TV animation. They're not the most animation-friendly things in the world. I think he just wanted to, I guess, because I think, I'm pretty sure Tanaka has done character designs for TV animation. I believe he's done that at least once. I might be wrong, but I think he wanted to do it in a way that would work for TV animation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he struggled a little bit with it, and I think that also kind of hurt. I think when it's very easy to go off model, and even when it's on model, it doesn't look super appealing at times from certain angles.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that they kind of used the same. Oh, it was the same character designer for Xenosaga 1 and 2.
You mean the games? Oh wait, you mean the DS game?
The DS game. Yeah, sorry.
I'm trying to remember. I think so.
Yeah, I remember the assets looked very similar.
I think it was the same guy, but that stuff's getting a little fuzzy on me. But
right.
I know they had the same composer.
Yeah, I'm actually I have a clip of the anime on YouTube open in another window, so that's kind of why I've been a bit quiet, because I've been looking at it as we're talking about it, and yeah, I could definitely see kind of like the difference in animation style, and it's interesting how like the artwork, it's not bad. I think like some parts of it are okay, like the eyes I guess are somewhat true to the game, but just the way this is drawn versus how it's animated, you can definitely tell that they had some issues with it. Because like some of the animation is kind of stiff. When Cosmos is coming out of her capsule, it doesn't look too bad, but like other scenes, yeah.
Yeah, I remember there was like an episode, like I don't know, it was 7 or 8, where they were having a mech battle, and the animation quality was just so bad. It just looked like they were just moving like one image like back and forth while it was shooting at it. It was just, yeah.
I'm looking at Virgil right now, and he just looks really like kind of lifeless. Just like the way, just one close up of him that I'm looking at right now, it just looks so awkward to me. Just the way it's drawn.
Yeah, because I know for the DS game, I know what's his name? Hiroyoshi Takeuchi. I think that's his name. He did the he worked on like Cowboy Bebop, and
Oh, okay.
but I know he did art for Xenosaga DS, but I'm not sure if the in-game like portraits were based on his work. I think they might have been, but I don't remember. Obviously, character designs can only mean so much in a game like that, so.
Right.
Yeah, man, I think on Xenosaga DS just reminds me, man, I would like to finish the translation on that. I still have a lot to go, but it takes time, and
Oh yeah.
I get, especially since I just finished another translation project, I'm kind of slowing down a little bit. I'll get, I kind of want to work on something else for now, and I'm kind of like writing something up, but.
Well, if a certain video game company would actually localize it, hint, hint, you wouldn't have to.
Yeah.
Oh my god, if Xenosaga DS gets localized before Mother 3, I'm gonna jump off a bridge.
Yeah, that'll be the day. But it's kind of interesting that they got all these big name artists to work on a series. Like, it just goes to show you that Namco really tried. They definitely tried to make this thing something big and something successful.
Yeah, I think at first they weren't sure how to market it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were trying a little too hard to get Xenogears fans to kind of gravitate toward it. And I remember,
for sure.
I think it was. I remember Nakamura had something during one of the reveals. He said something about Xenogears, and I remember kind of confused a lot of people. And I remember after that, you never really saw mention of Xenogears ever again. And from what I've heard from someone there, and I kind of take this one with a grain of salt because even he's not sure, said that apparently someone at Monolith Soft, I'm assuming it was Takahashi, wasn't super happy about that.
Oh.
So I think that's why you never saw mention of it again, because unless someone else asked him or brought it up, but even then, it kind of gets like, it's very brief. So it's kind of, I think, not that I'm trying to blame Nakamura for anything. It's, I think he was just trying to do his best in marketing it when he only knew so much about the project outside of like very vague things. So
True.
And Nakamura was really important actually for Monosoft coming into Namco, because he was a good communicator. He would really Monosoft and Namco were on the same page a lot for a lot of the development of the first game. I think after at some point Nakamura retired, and after that it was kind of communication was never the same. It wasn't like terrible or anything, but it was like for the most part, they have better communication with Nintendo after Nakamura left than how they were with Namco for that little period. And I think a lot of that was also because Namco was going through a lot of changes, a lot of company change, a lot of management changes without him. He was a big deal, and I think Namco was, even with like their own projects, I think there was a little bit of miscommunication just because there's just so many. When you have management changes, it's kind of a rough growing period. So I think that was a part of it. But yeah, I just can't remember that many of like the story detail changes. I know like Virgil lives longer in the animation. He has like a little character arc.
Yeah, and then he kind of trades places with Cherenkov, which I don't know. I mean, I really liked Cherenkov's story in episode 1, so it was kind of disappointing that they kind of killed him off just like in episode 2 of the anime.
Man, was it really only episode 2? Jeez.
Yeah.
I guess
it was real quick.
I guess since I only touched on episode 1 so briefly. God, man, it's weird. We're only on like the animation. I think we've been doing this for like an hour.
Yeah, we have.
I mean, that's a good thing. It shows that we have a lot of topics that we can cover for future episodes too.
That thing about like with Cherenkov in the first game, he's so prominent like early on in the Woglinde that I legitimately thought, because it wasn't like I didn't spoil myself on anything. I never spoiled myself on any of this stuff like whatsoever, especially the really early stuff. I didn't even bother. And I really thought that because of how prominent Cherenkov was, and he was on the Elsa for a while. I always asked myself, when does this guy become a playable character? Because it's gotta happen at some point, right? I mean, it feels like he's everywhere. And I remember that part where you're in the cathedral and all that stuff, and he's kind of having his hallucinations, and I only took it so seriously because I didn't realize how seriously I was supposed to be taking it, because I kept telling myself, man, they're really dragging out this character to become playable. They're really taking their time with this, not knowing what was going to happen. And when you fight him again, I'm like, I remember thinking like, man, are they actually going to have this guy turn back to normal after that, and then he becomes playable? Is that what's going to happen? And then there's the part where they're like grieving over him, like Sheen's like on the floor, and then that's when it hit me. I was like, he died? I was like, Cherenkov's dead? I was like, you can't just do that. I'm like, like, come on.
Yeah, poor Cherenkov.
Yeah, I think that part of the game actually, because they don't really, they don't call back to that part of the game too much, like especially after the first game.
Oh no.
But I think one thing, not that I think you have to, but I think the one thing about that storyline that actually works in the game's favor is that it really does a great job setting the themes of the game up, pretty much for the whole trilogy. Like sort of the way Cherenkov, the way he deals with like his memories and his past, and there's a general theme of like fear in the world and all that stuff. I think they did a pretty good job with that. So I do think that it sort of sets the tone for a lot of things you see later on. So even though they don't really reflect back on it too much, I do think it still has a very strong place in the trilogy.
Oh yes, yeah, definitely, and that's another reason why it was kind of disappointing that they didn't bring that over into the anime. But that probably would have taken too much time to go through.
Well, I'm gonna crack open a cold one for Cherenkov.
Oh wow, you're actually doing it.
Nice. Now should we move on to episode 3?
Yeah, we already talked about the anime. We talked about DS. I don't think I have much else to say about those. I mean, I do think the DS version is worth checking out if you. I mean, obviously, if you're like a hardcore fan, you're probably gonna want to check out everything with the name Xenosaga on it. But I do think it's worth playing just because if you're like a serious fan, just because I do think it's sort of a neat little interpretation of those two games. I don't think it's gonna change your mind on a lot of things, but there's some stuff that I kind of liked.
Yeah, I bought a copy of it at a convention a while ago, but my Japanese is so poor that I'm kind of afraid to actually tackle it.
That's funny because that's actually what I want to do. Because I've been studying Japanese for a couple of years. I'm trying to get back into it, and I actually really want to track down a copy because I want to play more RPGs in Japanese to help practice.
So yeah, I guess we'll finally move on to the third game. I feel like I drew that out for a while.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what exactly I was doing when I played the third game. I guess it's clearly it wasn't that important if I don't remember. So
Did you play it at launch or did you get it later on?
later on. That's another assumption for you people out there that probably thought I played the game in before it even came out. You must have played it in the office because apparently you know these people and you must have been there. You must be you must have been there for the recording sessions with the voice acting. There's probably unused lines from you in the game. That's God. Oh, actually, there's people who there's a few people like some of these are mostly the English speaking fans I've spoken to. That I have a couple of people I'll speak to about the games. That one of them was a friend I know in real life, and there seems to be this strange, I guess, assumption or theory from someone that it was just something someone said, but they said it. I'm pretty sure they said it unironically. If they said it ironically, they did a good job at making it very convincing. That apparently, I guess maybe because of something I said, apparently the only Xeno games I like are Xenogears and the first Xenosaga, and everything else I actually hate. And I guess I'm just torturing myself. I'm a glutton for punishment. I've played all of these games, these over a decade's worth of games, just as I just hate them so much. I dream about Microsoft collapsing. I send those employees mean messages every day.
Who are these people? Like, what the hell's the problem?
It was one person that said it, but everyone was like, "Is that true?" And I think there are a couple of people that seem to like believe this, and it was so like. The thing is, I've never actually answered. I'm still not going to answer whether that's true or not. I mean, you guys can figure that out for yourselves. I mean, if you're going to make a theory like that, I mean, I'm not debunking a damn thing. You guys can have fun. But
so that's why you use the word sadist and Xeno freaks.
Yeah, right.
I mean, maybe. I mean,
jeez. Like, I can't wrap my head around that. Like, just people just coming up with all these theories about you. Just over,
I think I know what you wrote. I think I guess because I talk about the production a lot, and I think some people, I guess they caught on to me, but I still think it's really weird. Like, I guess some people are like, I don't know what word I'm looking for, intimidated, but it's like, dude, I made a video about the Red Testament taking off his mask, and it was Vince McMahon. Like, how seriously do you want to take me?
I love that video. That was so hilarious.
Oh, I gotta watch that. That sounds hilarious.
Like,
It is. It is.
I guess it's good to be taken seriously. When people start saying stuff like that, it's like, man, oh, what kind of impression do I give? Like, it's just weird. It's like,
Yeah, that's the point where it's just like, come on, guys, like, really, do something better with your time.
I mean, it's funny. Like, it's those are the kind of theories that, there's a lot of bad theories and conjecture that, I kind of make my blood boil. But that's the kind of stuff that's just like, what the hell? It's like, what's wrong with you people? Like, but again, I'm not gonna answer that question. Maybe they're right. Maybe they're right. You never know. But,
so, our listeners, write in the comments what you think about Pure.
That is a dangerous thing to do.
Well, we're going to do some dangerous things on this podcast. So, if you're listening, write down what you think.
There's going to be that one comment. Again, unironically right. Like, he's just a big elitist. Like, he just doesn't like the same stuff I like. It's just...
What a snob. He actually liked Xenosaga 2? What?
Like is a strong word there, but...
So yeah, episode 3.
Oh, man. But, the thing is that as soon as I played it, like, you start the game, you'll start the story, and people seem to think that, I guess this is a good segue to really sink into the production of the game, because Xenosaga 3 doesn't have much documented publicly on the production of that game.
You're right. I can't find a lot on it.
Yeah, it's just sort of moved on. I think they were done with the series at that time. They felt like internally they were like, all right, we're moving on. But a lot of people get the impression that they'll see Xenosaga 1 and 2 and they're like, okay, these are two different styles. People will associate 3 as being closer to the first game style, and that's not wrong. But like some people will say that it's like the first game. I don't think that's... I think on the surface you might get that. That might be true on the surface, but if you really look at it, the directing is actually pretty different in a lot of ways. And I don't mean that in a bad way at all, but it's just...
I 100% agree with you. They're not that similar at all.
There's... and I'm speaking entirely of like the story and the presentation. Like gameplay-wise, even that's different too. But
same.
But like the first scene is... I guess I should talk about one of the guys that worked on the game. I've talked about it a little bit on my Twitter, but I only do so much because it's Twitter. How much can I talk about in 240 characters a piece? But so in Square there was a guy called Norihiro Takami, and he usually works with CG, like animation and stuff like that. He didn't work on Xenogears. Some people can make that mistake, but he worked on games like Final Fantasy VII, stuff like that. See, he at some point he joined Monolith, not too late after it formed, and he did the CG scenes for the first Xenosaga. That was his first role. Kind of a normal way to, in your new workplace, that's a normal continuation. He's basically continuing what he knows how to do. And it's also interesting that Xenosaga 1's directing, like from Takahashi, was he likes to let people do their own thing, but with that game, he still let people do their own thing, but there were a lot of situations where he gave very specific directions. And I remember it's one of the only comments Norihiro Takami has ever made publicly. It doesn't seem like somebody that likes to talk publicly very much, but I remember he said something like he gave him some directions, but it's like they were strict and vague at the same time, and then the rest he could do whatever he wanted. And I remember his like impression of that is that Takahashi drove him nuts. Like he thought it was kind of a weird experience working with him for that game.
Yeah, I can see how that would be very frustrating.
It wasn't
specific.
It wasn't negative. It wasn't like a negative impression. It was just
right.
Yeah, he's like, sometimes I have to ask him again, like, what do you mean by this? This doesn't make any sense. Like, please talk to me, Takahashi. I can't help you if you're not willing to speak to me. But in the second game there was such a drastic reformation of the staff because Takahashi he really wanted to let younger staff do their own thing. I think there were some other reasons why he wasn't really too attached to the game. I think there are a lot of things he was doing because for the first Xenosaga, that time period for him. And again, some people they like to give like staff a lot of shit, like, oh, they were being lazy, or they didn't care, or maybe they don't think they need this franchise or something. But the reality, and at least especially in Takahashi's case, was that he was just so busy. Like, you're forming a new company, you're scrambling for new staff. There's a lot of new people that, some people's first work was the first Xenosaga. There's the schedule is brutal. Like, they gave you like when the development started officially, I think he only had like a year to work on it.
And wow.
That's not like the worst thing, but when you're working with new guys and you're trying to get more staff, it's kind of a nightmare. On top of that, he's got like his personal life. He's got stuff going on over there. That might have been the busiest time of his life. Like, see, you got to come to work. Like, just to give you perspective, this guy's got to come to work, and he's got to be like your super boss. Like, he's got to be everywhere, and not like physically, but he's got to keep his eye on everything. He's got a business to run. He's got a game to run. He's got to make sure everyone like knows what they're doing. And then he's got to come home. He's a father. He's a husband. He's got to be super husband. He's got to be super dad. He's got all this stuff to do. Like, he must have been a nightmare. So it's not really super shocking that he tried to maybe step away a little bit on the second game, because he was probably still really busy. Like, it must have been complete hell. I don't know if I agree entirely with how he did it, but I understand why he did it. And a lot of people, especially back then, they again, I remember a lot of people were really upset with him, but I just don't think they understood. Like, they kind of jumped to conclusions, and I don't think it was. I thought it was an understandable decision, all things considered. But I guess back then, how could people have known that?
Yeah, because otherwise, that situation sounds extremely stressful.
Yeah, and I mean, and everything. People seem to like. People also seem to think that. Oh, I guess I'll get into that later, but we'll just with the second game, it's so you have all this new staff in their new positions, and you have Naohiro Takami. He had his position was basically changed. He wasn't doing it wasn't like the same kind of CGI for that game. He had pre-rendered cutscenes, but it wasn't like pre-rendered cutscenes in that game. Some of them are different from the way they work in the first game. Mm-hmm. So he basically got a promotion, but it was like it was kind of a hard one for him. It was he got promoted to he's a cutscene director and the art director. And he's never done either of those things. So that's a totally when they make you both, that's that's not easy to just jump into. He has he has an eye for art and direction and things like that because of his previous job, but it's not the same. And then you're working with new staff, you're working with new director. You have about the same amount of time, about the same amount of money as the first game. It's his experience. I think it was one that he grew from a lot. I think the biggest thing, because if you look at his art direction in the second game, and then you look at it in the third game, it's almost completely different. They feel different in like almost every way. Lighting, colors, everything is so different from him in that game, and a lot of that is because they had the new director Korai, and he's also kind of he's basically an artist himself. So in the third game, that's a good thing, but in the second game, it's a little iffier because he's very much he's sort of I guess heavily supervising the project and they have a new producer who's also heavily supervising the project. A lot of people blame Namco for the changes. It's not necessarily true. I think there was just people were trying new things and trying to understand what they were doing. I think a lot of people just didn't know what they were doing for like the first couple of months. The hardest part of that game's development was it was getting your feet on the ground first. That took the longest, and then everything that came after. But you only have so much time left, so it's like
right.
So you have Korai is sort of managing Naohiro Takami very strictly. It's sort of a draconian approach that he has, and it's not that he's being like he doesn't want to be overpowering, but he wants to make sure that the game comes out a certain way and everyone's a little bit nervous about a new art director who's never done anything like that before, and he's also the cutscene director, and it wasn't easy for either of them. Like again, a lot of people will give like Korai a lot of crap for the ways the second game turned out, but a lot of it was just him learning, and a lot of it like when you it wasn't fair because Yasuki Han, I feel like he would have been a better choice for that game to be the director.
Yeah.
But he was working on Baiten Kairos. I think that's how you say that. I've never played that game.
It was a decent game.
Well, I don't know anything about it. I just know that was his thing. So now he's directing that, and Takahashi's basically gone. You don't have an experienced director like that in the company anymore. You had to pick somebody new. So I guess settled on him.
Yeah, and didn't Korai, like, I might be wrong, didn't he, like, work on, like, backgrounds in Xenogears, or?
Right, yeah, he helped a lot with that, and he basically, in a way, you could say, he could amount his role in that game to helping with the art direction, which was with Yasuki Han. He was the art director. So, and Yasuki Han was the art director for the first game, which is another reason why it's so different. Like, he has a more, again, Takahashi kind of managed him a bit, but it wasn't as much, which is why the game has a very cold aesthetic at times. It's, like, it's very 2001: A Space Odyssey inspired.
Yeah, I can see that.
Which is why there's not a lot of music in that game. Like there's music, and I think the music placement itself is good, but I think they got carried away with having no music placement in certain areas. Like
yeah,
a lot of people are kind of iffy about that. It didn't bother me too much, but I understand the complaint about that. But I think when the actual music placement for what they had was great. It was just a lot of silence. I feel a lot of dead air there, and
yeah, like especially you'd think for like a place like the Kukai Foundation, which is more like a town, that you would have like something in the background. But
yeah. Again, that was more of a Takahashi thing. Again, I admire the approach. I took a risk there. I just think sometimes it didn't pay off. Sometimes it did, but there are a lot of times where it could have been managed better. But and for the second game, it's like the opposite. It's like, well, I think he wanted the game. He tried to make the game a little more appealing, while trying not to betray what the original game did, and I think he really struggled with that. Again, I don't think Takami did a bad job with the art direction for what it was. I still thought it was fine. It's just not as I think it's a far cry from what he did with the third game, and the cutscene direction, I thought that was fine for what it was. He didn't do the cutscene direction in the first game, but with the first game, and this is sort of an in joke among like two of my friends that I never shut up about storyboarding. But when you have a cutscene heavy game like that, the whole trilogy is cutscene heavy, but you have to be careful with how you storyboard things. So with everything has like a certain storyboard to it, like TV shows and anime, a film, and of course video games. But you can't all these forms of media. They don't have the you can't storyboard them the same way. Working with animation is just not the same as working with a live action actor, where you're gonna get a constant facial expression and movement. It just doesn't work the same as in animation. You can't just linger on them forever. You have to sort of try to make it more dynamic. And video games seem to fall somewhere in between that. You don't want to do too much like live action, but you don't want to do it too much like animation. Kind of abides to its own unwritten rules. And I feel like a mistake that Takahashi kind of made was he really wanted the storyboard artist, who was Yasushi Shibu, and he storyboarded that game in the first game, the second game in the first game, and he seems to make him abide by the rules of trying to make it like cinema, which is the general direction of the game, which is fine, but I think he kind of I guess back then, cutscenes like that were new in video games. I don't think they understood that if you linger on characters for too long, it kind of makes the cutscene feel like it's dragging. You have to kind of play with the angles a little bit more. And I think that was kind of an oversight with the storyboarding in that game. I think when you look, the cutscenes are good. I'm not saying that they're bad. I just think sometimes in a dialogue scene, when two characters are talking to each other, it kind of just the reason why the game feels like it drags isn't just because of the scenes being long. It's because There's sort of a lot of lingering shots on the characters. They stay there for a while, and it sort of creates a sort of a subconscious effect where it feels like it's longer than it is, and it's something you have to be careful with.
Yeah, they focus on the same angle too long.
Yeah, okay. I think they did that with a lot of dialogues. Again, it's not the worst. There's still like some nice stuff. It's just, I think again that was sort of the vision Takahashi had, but I think you have to be a little bit careful. Again, it's one of those things. I admire the idea, but you have to be a little. And experience goes a long way. Didn't have it back then, but with the second game, the storyboarding. So he actually storyboarded a lot of the second game during the development of the first game because some of those scenes were going to be there. But he had to redraw them for the second game, so...
Oh, right.
So if for some reason... so I've had the I guess the privilege of seeing certain production, like, materials, but if these things ever surface and they show you the... like a scene from the second game, but for some reason they're wearing their outfits from the first game, it's because he might not have redrawn that scene. And they just left it that way. And they just used the new models for it.
Well, didn't they make models of the first game's outfits in the second one?
Yeah, but a lot of those outfits that they're wearing, like even in like one of the trailers, like you could see Chaos is wearing his, in the trailers for the first game, they have the scene where Chaos is sitting with Jin. From the second game, it's there, but it's obviously in the first game, Chaos is still wearing his original attire. So, stuff like that, they weren't planning on having the outfit changes, at least not for everyone. But yeah, it's sort of, I think that was always sort of I think the cutscene direction for the games, for all the games, is good. It's just, I think for the first two, especially the first one, they kind of struggled a bit with the storyboarding in terms of how to frame things and things like that. And with the second one, it was a little more dynamic. I think because of music placement, I have a little bit more mixed feelings about it. I played the Japanese version a lot more than the English one. So there's some interesting music. The fight scene between Jin and Margulis, the first one that they have, a lot of the stuff that happens in there is actually Norihiro Takami's idea, that he just had Shibu storyboard for him. And I think even in one of the interviews, like again, one of the few times he's ever spoken, he actually brings that up. He's like, "Oh yeah, I look forward to that," because I think he was really proud of it.
Oh yeah, both the first and second fights between them were excellent. Like the choreography.
Highlight.
Yeah, I think that, and I think the music placement with like Kajiura's music placement was really good for that scene.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's good stuff there. I wish I could remember more just off the top of my head right now, but I mean it's fine. You could see him. I think it's an interesting game, Xenosaga 2, for me, just because I kind of see like some of like his growth. That's like his. I feel like that game was like the real starting point for what he would become in later games. Which sort of brings us finally to the third game. Finally, I can talk about it because I feel like I've been avoiding it for so long. It's been like an hour and a half, and I'm still talking about Xenosaga 2.
Yeah, that's been the most we've been talking about is episode 2, surprisingly.
But production-wise, it's an interesting game to talk about. I think it's an interesting growing point for model stuff. Everybody kind of looks back at it, but I think without that game, a lot of people like the original Xenoblade, but I think without Xenosaga 2, a lot of the people that were able to excel with that game, it doesn't really go as smoothly, because I think that experience was a hard experience, but it was something that I think they benefited from in the long run. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And even the third game, I think you see the benefits of what they were struggling with. Sort of show. I think Korai, his directing approach is actually very different. His approach is less heavily supervised. Norihiro Takami, unlike the second game, he has way more freedom. Like everything from like the lighting and like a lot of the colors you see, and like even like the part where like old Milsha is on fire, when it's the conflict is actually happening.
Yeah,
a lot of that, like the colors and like where the flames are appearing and all that. That's all his idea. Like that all came from him. Because if you look at it in the first game, you can actually tell that it's completely different when you go in the UMN like simulation. It's more blacks and it's more dark colors, It's the air's a little bit more dead. It's not. They portray it in a very different way, like in terms of like the art direction and things like that. But in the third game, you kind of see it's like he made it more chaotic. He wanted to. He's a kind of the kind of art and cutscene director that really wants the what you're seeing with your eyes to kind of benefit the narrative, as opposed to just making it look cool for the sake of looking cool. So, and again, with like something like the Miltian conflict, when it starts, it's actually I believe the starting point. It's after you beat Virgil, and you come out of the the little cathedral that you come out of. It's all like destroyed, and after that, like, because normally the air around that place, it's like blue skies, the grass is like really green, it's all nice looking. When you get out of there, it's not green anymore. It's like the sky, everything's like gray. Even the grass looks gray, because he wants to. The idea was to make something go from like dead looking, and slowly progress into like these really aggressive looking reds that you see in the Miltian conflict. Because everything is very quiet when you come out of that cathedral. All you hear when you come out is gonna hear like rumbling sounds. That's not there before until after you beat Virgil, and that's supposed to like sort of represent that in the distance you're hearing like there's something's happening, in the town, and as you slowly go there, you kind of everything's like you kind of see things are on fire, and the sky is like really red even on the map, and as you make your way to Labyrinthos. Now, even when you go inside, it still has like that color scheme. But the more you go to like that hospital room where Shion's mother's at, it actually gets progressively darker. And the more you go in, like by the time you reach her room, it's completely dark. Like it's all you see is some like the only lighting you have are some of the lighting on the side. It's totally black. And the idea is that he wanted to sort of create an atmosphere where everything's really chaotic, but it doesn't feel hopeless. It just feels like you don't know what to make of it. And as you make it to her room, it progressively feels more and more hopeless. Like it's just too late. Like after they usually usually gets that way after the scenes where you kind of see like those what are those things called? They were like Realian, like prototype Realians or something. What are they called? The things that kill Shion's mother. Well, whatever they were called. But it's like after that scene, like you start seeing scenes like that, in the scene where like her father's like desperately calling Jin, and he's gonna die, like what happens. So as you progressively get closer to that room, it's just getting darker and darker, and by the time you go into that room and she sees what's happened to her mother, it's so dark in that room. And the idea was to create, like, that's the kind of art director he is. He tries to create the feel of the narrative as you're like kind of going through the motions. So that's kind of why everything's getting progressively darker and bleaker. And the only thing that's lit up in that whole like top floor, or at least near the top floor, whatever floor it's on, the only thing that's lit up properly is that room. If you go into the room where those creatures are in, where you see all the canisters are all broken from where they're being held, that's the only room that's lit up properly. So wow. that's the kind of when he's free from being heavily supervised, he's able to do stuff like that. And that's the big difference between the second game and the third game.
Wow, I never really thought of how much like effort and thought went into that.
It actually makes a lot of sense, because I was thinking about like the scene as you're describing it. So it's kind of cool that they're able to basically convey emotion without necessarily spelling it out. You experience it as the characters are experiencing it too.
Yeah, because if you notice with the second cutscene direction, it's like it can be, I guess, cool. I guess would be the word to describe some of the stuff, but it doesn't have the kind of, I guess, narrative implications that what he would do later, because that's kind of what they were trying to make him do. And the second they kind of left him on his own, it was like, okay, I can make stuff like this now, because yeah, I guess you could say, and I think Korai actually has some influence on the art direction, because if you notice, there's actually no credited art director for the game, and that's because sometimes when that happens, they just won't, because if someone else has like some degree of influence on it, they might not credit any single person. But Korai is I think once he kind of when he sort of knew what he was doing more with the third game, he was more of a he kind of sees more of an artist director when he kind of lets him do stuff like that. I also know he designed some of the stuff in the cathedral. I keep using the word cathedral to describe things, but they just keep using that setting. That area in Mictum where you fight Voyager.
Yeah.
Some parts of that area are actually very heavily influenced by Korai, which is why it kind of looks a little bit like Xenogears. It looks like a certain area in there.
Oh yeah, it was
because it's basically like the way he likes to design things. And as far as the cutscene direction goes from Takami, it's again it's more narrative driven, and I think the best example was somebody that had been able to work with him had sort of clarified for me, because there's sort of a running theme in the game where if you notice a lot of the scenes, not all of them, but a lot of the scenes with Shion and Kevin, even some of the flashback stuff, like the scene where he gives her the necklace. There's a scene with the text boxes, but the scene when it goes away from that and goes to a full-blown normal scene, it looks even darker, and that's because Takami likes to kind of play with the lighting a little bit. If you go into the debug of the game, you kind of notice there's certain effects, screen effects you can play around with, and I'm not sure if those were his idea, but he definitely I know he likes to play around with lighting a lot, so it wouldn't surprise me. But there's a recurring theme where there's that scene, and there's the scene where after you beat those creatures and after they kill her mother, and that room's already really dark, but when he opens when the door opens and Kevin's there, the initial shot of him is actually you can't see him in detail. He's actually just a dark silhouette. He's actually modeled to be that way. And then lightning flashes, and then you could see him. And again, the room is still really dark. But I think one thing that I noticed when I was playing the game, I didn't make too much out of it. I just figured it was a visual motif. So there's there's the scene where he reveals himself to her, when he takes off the mask. And
right.
When they're in that room at first, it's sort of lit up normally. It's some, I think it's green lighting on the sides or whatever. Yeah. And it's a fairly normally lit room. But the second they show him up close and they show her up close, again they use a screen effect where the screen is the only thing you can see are the two characters. You can't see the background anymore. It's completely black again. And it's like that for a while until she gets pulled away by the guards. And then there's another scene. I feel that's one I'm probably gonna forget. But there's one other one where the Alan scene where near the end of the game, where there's a part where she when she finally steps away from him, she's holding his hand, but when she pulls away from his hand, when they do the close up on the hands, you can't see the background anymore because it's just become so dark. And the inspiration for that was from Takami, but he knew at the end of the game, there's that scene where they say goodbye to each other, and
it's pure white.
Yeah, it's completely white, and he already knew it was gonna be like that because of the that scene where you get to see Adult Junior. So he was like, oh, so the scene's totally white. So he decided to do that to contrast that, because throughout the game there are these two people who Kevin kind of rejects the world as a whole. That's his character, and right. that's how he is internally. And with Shion, it's more of a knee-jerk reaction because of all the horrible things that are just constantly happening, and sort of her confusion with everything, and that's kind of why she goes to him in the first place. And how the idea that Kevin is fooled into is that they're gonna have their own world together. It's just gonna be the two of them. And that's the reason why he keeps everything dark, and you can't see any other character or background. The idea was, here are these two characters that are they just want to be isolated together whenever they see each other, because they for different reasons they sort of reject the world for very different reasons, and they're both kind of miserable for, again, very different reasons.
Yeah, they're both in their own little bubble.
Yeah, and they would like to be. They kind of they feel like they, it's like they understand each other, but in a really poisonous way. So that's sort of why he always makes everything really dark when they're around each other, sort of to create that feeling that it's just the two of them whenever they're sort of having that kind of moment.
Wow.
And when it's white, it's supposed to be well, they don't reject the world anymore. They're just, and again, different reasons, but and they kind of accept that that they're the way they were seeing things and the way they saw each other, it just wasn't working, and that's kind of why. It's sort of like it's like the light and the darkness, like you're kind of illuminated. So that was, that was the idea behind his stuff like that. Is his idea behind the cutscene direction of that game.
Wow. I'd never even thought about that. That's really fascinating.
Yeah, neither did I. That's nuts. Damn. Yeah, now I want to look through all these cutscenes because I'm kind of curious to see what else is there. Because I'm sure there's plenty of other really interesting tidbits like that.
Yeah, we never really because they've kind of gone through a lot of different things for cutscene direction, but I don't think they never really had something that was sort of narrative driven, visually with just cutscenes like that, little things like that. They've had different little visual motifs here and there, even you see like little things in Xenogears has that, but
no, this is on a different level.
Yeah,
plus bringing it back in several scenes and under different contexts too. I think that's just really fascinating.
Yeah, but again, that the only reason he ended up kind of portraying it that way is and he just knew, he was like, oh, that's how it ends. That's how he saw that, and I guess that was something he decided to do after I guess he wanted to make it more of a contrast narratively. But yeah, I think I'm just explaining that just so you know the difference between the way he was able to do things in the second game versus the third game. It's it's so different when you don't have someone, when you have a better circumstance and you have you have more freedom and you're really capable of doing things like that. I think it really shows. And sometimes you really should just some of your artists just kind of see what they can come up with, because you kind of get stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm glad they gave him more freedom in Episode 3 then.
But yeah, I think the best way to define the difference between him and a lot of other people are, I think it's his use of colors. That's usually he likes to play around with that, and even that part where she's sort of separating her hand from him, the scene after, the next cut it's brightly lit behind her because that room is it's this bright light blue, little things like that. So yeah, it's kind of, again, I hadn't noticed it as visually. I just didn't. Somebody explain that to me. I was like, oh, I guess nobody would have to completely guess that, but I always thought that was one of the most interesting things I had heard from. When somebody brought him up as a topic.
Now, has he worked on any other games after Xenosaga Episode 3, or?
Yeah, he worked on the original Xenoblade. Same thing, art, cutscene direction, and but his approach is a little bit different than that one. Because it's not necessarily direction, but I think that the vague idea was he created so much of the game world, the map, how sort of the way things should look, along with some other people. The general look of that game before a lot of the story was even close to being done, so it was a little bit different. And I think a big problem that a lot of people do, a lot of cutscene directors have, is they rely on the art direction for the atmosphere, instead of making their own little changes. I think Takami gets away with that a little bit in the first Xenoblade because he is the art director, so he kind of has some of that stuff in mind already. But yeah, his approach is a little bit different. I think he does a good job with that one too, but it's for different reasons. And in general, the third game had I'm not sure if I would say it had an outright smoother schedule, but I think the experience came a long way.
Oh yeah.
For how they managed to handle that game. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird to think that Tanaka was only heavily involved in the first one. Because in the second one and the third one, they're both, the character designs are for the most part, they're by Choco, and I mean that's fine, but it's just, I always thought that was kind of strange. Actually, it's just weird to think that he never came back until Xenoblade X to work with, to directly work with Dagashi again.
You mean like the character designs or?
Yeah, the character designs.
Oh, okay, yeah. That was weird. I was glad to have Kanehiko Tanaka back. I know some people were kind of mixed on how the character models turned out for X.
It's kind of interesting with Tanaka. I'm looking him up right now, and there seems to be like weird gaps between his work. For example, Xenogears was the first game he worked on since 1991 with Popful Mail, which is quite the gap.
Tanaka's been more on the. He's been doing stuff for a while.
Yeah, I mean he's been around for a while. It's just interesting when I see like kind of a large gap there.
Yeah, I'm just kind of I feel like it's well no I really like his designs for Xenoblade 2 that he contributed. I don't know if they worked out so well in Xenoblade X, but I feel like I don't know if the designers were more talented or got more experience after Xenoblade X, but everything just seems with his art style just seems better in Xenoblade 2.
Well, I think it's also because in 2, a lot of the artists they were kind of just like free to do their own thing. They didn't really have to conform to a particular style. Which I know a lot of people complain with Blade 2. They always complain, it's all inconsistent, but I kind of like that better.
One of the reasons why things look a little bit between those two games is Tanaka's designs are they're hard to translate into 3D. That's kind of been parodied a lot, but it's true. But I think the other thing is that the approach for Xenoblade 2's designs. A lot of people think that it's like I see cell shading and stuff like that, and they think it must have been more complicated to work on than Xenoblade X's model. So that's not true at all. The entire basis for that style, it was to make it a little looser. It's a looser style that you can adapt and animate. It's way easier. It was more for convenience than anything else. And I think with Tanaka, sort of, obviously he's still doing it in his style, but they still have to like adhere to some of the shading and stuff, and a lot of the the cell shading and all that stuff. It just becomes easier to work with. It wasn't like it just wasn't as complicated to do. I still think a model like his design for Cross it was still probably more complicated than like Rex. His character design is actually very easy for them to animate, but with Xenoblade X it was it was a little rough to work with that. They also they're working with the Wii U hardware for the first time.
Oh yeah,
and that was the real nightmare. I'll get to that game because I've had the privilege. You got to put privilege in really thick quotations here to play the beta of the game, and it's actually kind of terrible. So,
jeez.
Yeah. Also had I guess on the subject, I completely forgot about this. I've actually had the chance to play Xenosaga 3's 2 of their betas. But
really? The
changes are not nearly as awkward and drastic as Xenoblade X's. Xenoblade X's is like a horror story. Xenosaga 3 is like, okay, this is Xenosaga 3, but the portraits look really weird, and the trap logos are really ugly. And Shion keeps asking me to save the game every time I use one of her attacks because they didn't voice everything yet. That's basically just weird stuff like that, like quaint stuff. But with Xenoblade X, it's just again, I'll get to it in a second, I guess.
This marks the end of part 1 with our XenoChat with Pure. Tune in next time when we continue our discussion with Pure, and we will see you all next time. Thanks for listening.